him walking into the podcast room, and I had the art set up, and I unveiled it, dropped the cloth, and then he just sees it, and it was probably the best reaction that I've had so far.
Tell us the inspiration. How long had you been thinking about dabbling in this space? Of course, the boom in 2020 might have been a little bit of like the now's the time to start doing it. But yeah, tell us about the inspiration, the research, and then we can dig in a little bit more.
Yeah, so it was definitely the 2020 boom and what Topps was doing that had me intrigued. And I when they did Top 70, I had a couple artists I already knew who were picked to be a part of that. One of them is a very talented artist in Philadelphia, Chuck Styles, and I bought pretty much every one of his cards, and just became more and more intrigued by everything. And unfortunately, they still to this day have not hit me up to do anything. But I, regardless of that, found different projects that I thought were so cool. And there was a couple like individual artist athlete collaborations that I saw and bought the card, and I was like, wow. So I before I launched Immortals, I already for 2 years like wanted to do something, and had those seeds planted even a little bit with Brian Dawkins, but nothing really worked out or moved forward when I wanted it to initially. And everything happens for a reason, and I think it was meant to wait until when we did it last year because everything worked out so well. But yeah, it was about 2021 that I really started thinking about it and wanting to do the card thing. But when I got into it last year, I didn't want to just do this one-off card and boom, here's what we got. I really wanted to make this my own and do something as unique as I could that I didn't see anybody else doing. And for the customer's sake, have it feel like an experience, not just a card, but you're opening this box, all these details, all the storytelling, and I wanted them to feel the value of what they're paying, So, and then on top of that, with Brian, we have a portion going to his foundation. How can we support a good cause through this? All these different things that are important to me that I think make it the most epic project that we could,
Yeah, you checked a lot of the boxes for sure. And one thing that stood out to me is you made sure to create rarity in the cards. There's a limit to them as well, right? There's I think each run has a certain number out there. What went into the research, and did you consult with folks? Like, how did that look like before you actually decided what it was going to look like?
Yeah, the number one rule for me was consulting with the people,
in the space.
I had built relationships or knew certain people in the card space whose value or whose opinion I value. And the majority decision was for sure to not offer the cards as hey, these ones are this price, these ones are this price. Okay. It was instead to have a lower price point where everybody has a fair shot to land some of these more rare autograph cards or parallels. And obviously, the more of them that you buy, the better chance you have. But at least everybody still has a fair shot. Like, I think the person who got the 1 of 1 from the Dawkins project, I think he bought like 2 cards. And there was people who bought 10, 15, 20. So it just goes to show, like, it's cool from that standpoint that you have a shot to get something cool. And even, my goal was like, even if you don't get those are like the bonus. Even without those, the base card is still awesome in itself.
Correct. So yeah, you have an exclusive and limited base card anyways out of a collection that, is no longer going to be available unless you buy it off of eBay or at a card show. Right?
Exactly. And as time has gone on, I've now seen the after effects of that, especially when we released the Brandon Graham card. You got X amount of more Eagles fans who just never saw the Dawkins one. And they're like, hey, how can I get one? Unfortunately, it's sold out. But we have X, Y, and Z people that bought multiple who are selling it on eBay. So it's been cool to see the value of those go up pretty quickly just based on how much people are selling them for on eBay.
And so that was edition 1 and 2 that you just touched on, right? We had the Dawkins, the inaugural piece, the Brandon Graham piece, that was number 2. And then we get to Bull Nickal. which is where I found you through. This hit my radar, and I thought this card just stood out to me. I was like, "Holy crap! What's the story behind it?" And that's kind of how I slipped into your DMs eventually. But tell me, how did the link between you and Bo come to be?
So one of those individuals who really helped give me good insight and his opinion on collecting cards. His name's Frank Murphy. He actually he's a teacher and he writes children books too. But he collects a ton of Bo stuff and other cards too. And through the process with the Dawkins card and the BG card, he was always there to kind of give his advice or give his opinion, and he's always been super helpful. And he always had this great relationship with Bo before I knew him.
Mm-hmm.
And from the jump, from the very beginning, he's like, "Hey, I know you're not ready for it now, but this guy Bo Nickal, you have to do a card with him. Not only is he UFC's golden child, but he is probably going to be champion. And on top of that, he collects his own cards and loves
That's right.
trading cards, and he's
That's
super
right.
into it. So, and on top of that, he's very similar to you, like talking to me, as far as just treats everybody right. He's very respectful, and he's just a good dude. So that led to eventually Immortals Trading Card 3, which we
Yeah.
dropped on April 18th. And yeah, man, it's been quite a journey.
Did Bo have a lot of input into this, or was it also like go ahead and run with it?
Yeah, it's fun to figure out people's personalities because Brian Dawkins is very detailed, very into it, and he had a ton of input. And not a ton of input. Like I did my thing for the initial concept, but
Yeah.
first showing it to him last year, he was like he loved it, and he's like, "But let's change this,
Let's
add
yeah.
this," And with Brandon Graham, he was like he can, not that he could care less, he just loved it, like, and no changes, nothing,
Yeah.
and that's just how he is. He just loves everything. And Bo, same thing. He's like, man, I want people to do what they do, and I don't want to
Yeah.
give much insight at all. um but the one thing that he did ask if I could include it if it was possible was to have paying homage to his son Ace,
Mm-hmm.
and that
Which
ties
is
into not.
cleverly baked in there. It took me a while to actually find it.
Yeah. I'm glad you found it. Yeah, and then even the name of the card itself plays into that too. So that was really the only input, but the rest of it, that was all me. If you go to the product page where you can buy one, listed out there under the important details and description is all the fun facts about the project, how it works, the randomization, the different parallels that you could hit, the different autograph cards that you could hit, even the meanings behind the different numbers, like why is there 17 of this, why is there 2,717 cards in total,
Mm.
um, and all those fun facts of how we put it together and how it's pieced together. And yeah, right at the top, you'll see the pre-order information of everything begins shipping late May. And the main
Late
reason
May.
for that is because the custom boxes that we do, which is cool in itself. Like, it's not just the card, it's about the box too. I try to make the box as cool as I can. Those take so much longer on production, and they ship from overseas. So, it's just a matter of waiting, and we start that process long before the project releases, but it takes so long. So that's really the only reason, because the cards are done a little bit
Okay.
earlier, and it's just a matter of we get those, everything gets randomized, packaged up, sealed, and shipped out.
How many iterations did you actually create before you landed on where we landed?
Um, Not many. There actually, I mean, there wasn't that many pictures of Bo to begin with, especially in the
Mm-hmm.
UFC. There's some cool moments he has had, such as, like, there was a one fight he was up on the cage after, celebrating, and like some knockouts, or like the one where he's like
Yeah.
this, like,
Yeah.
that's it, stuff like that. But for me, I always love to bring the energy
Yeah.
and bring the passion. And the original picture of him flexing like that was actually, I didn't even realize it till after, because I found it on Google. But it was
Okay.
his cover photo on his Facebook fan page,
Interesting.
and that was the first picture I found that was like, wow, this is this is cool. I could work with this.
Yeah.
So I use that as the base, right? I first start with the position or the action of the individual for the
Hmm.
card, and then I build everything else around that. So everything kind of came naturally after that point. The 27:17, Bo's one of his favorite Bible verses, iron sharpens iron. That ties directly into the iron of the cage,
Yeah.
and that really influenced the aura and the elements of the card that surround him. Having it feel like he's ripping the octagon apart, and then you got
Yeah.
like the barbed wire around him, like
Which is what he's
so
holding. Yep.
yeah, and we had a podcast too, like uh, in the beginning where I talk about the card a lot and the different details, and there's so much depth to it, and that's what I wanted to create because there's a lot of depth to his story already. So I
Yeah.
wanted to be able to not only highlight his success so far in the UFC, but pay homage to his success as a legend in college wrestling.
In
So
college, yeah. Yeah, you have his record on there. You have iron sharpens iron. You have the this is what we do. You have his son's name, cleverly put in there as well. Ace. What else? There was the Roy in there, which stands for the Rookie of the Year 2023. What else am I missing? You have the Bo Show. Yeah, I mean, there's so much detail into it that what was his reaction? What was Bo's reaction when he first got to see this? Did he see this? Did he have an idea of how this was coming along, or was it a brand new reveal to him as well?
yeah, so I love surprises in life. I feel like it makes life more exciting.
And you better believe I like surprises too, which is why we have a surprise for you guys. We will be giving away one of these Immortal rookie cards of Bo Nickal to someone who subscribes, comments on this video, and follows Jordan on Instagram at Spector_art. Once again, very simple steps, 3 of them. Subscribe to this channel, comment on this video, and follow Jordan on Instagram at Spector_art. Good luck, y'all. Yeah.
So part of the marketing and the content we get is like the first meetup with the athlete is
Hmm.
unveiling the artwork and just getting their reaction on camera. So that was what we did. We went up to Penn State early April before Bo was going out to Vegas.
Yeah.
And we got together, and Bo was kind enough to also ask if we could do a whole podcast episode about the card and stuff. And so we did that. And prior to that, the first part of the meetup was him walking into the podcast room, and I had the art set up, and I unveiled it, dropped the cloth, and then he just sees it, and it was probably the best reaction that I've had so far out of the 3 cards.
What's the funniest memory or something that stood out by meeting Bo Nickal that just caught you off guard?
Caught me off guard about Bo. I would say just how relaxed he actually is, and it fathoms me. Like, and it makes sense because he's done this his whole life, especially wrestling. Like, he's used to the high pressure situations, but it's like even prior to his fight, I was surprised with the communication I had with him, and him just seeming pretty calm. And it's impressive because and it's not what I do, but I can't imagine you're going to war in a day or a couple of weeks or whatever, and it's like it's so much.
And
So
he's
just
just so relaxed, yeah, even though he's
yeah,
about to go in there and try to
yeah,
demolish somebody.